Okay, thank you, thank you. So what I thought we would do today is I'll walk you through the prototype we have so far. I'm saying prototype because a big part of this is, we've been hearing the requests, want a chance to check with you all and say, hey, here's what we've built. Did this meet what you were looking for? Are there other things that could be easier? Or that you'd like to see from this, and trying to use this to kind of grow it, iterate it, and make it a useful, lasting resource for you all. By no means is this the end result. We really want to hear from you all on how we can make this something that's useful and that meets the needs we have for coordinated enrollment and this kind of peer learning environment we're trying to create around it. So what I will do is I'll go ahead and share my screen and just do a brief walkthrough. Would love to hear, your thoughts, how it looks. And then, like I said, hopefully tomorrow, and if not tomorrow, then Monday or early next week, we should have it out for you all to poke around with yourself and tell us how it looks. Let me go ahead. All right, can you all see a Sharepoint look inside ELD coordinated enrollment? Awesome, I see a nod, so I'll take that as an okay. So you'll see this is sort of the main landing page. There's a couple of sub pages that we will walk through, the kind of 4 main ones up here: resources, a specific Preschool Promise section, collection and archive of any news, and then our meetings and events as well. From this new to coordinated enrollment, we put together a short kind of onboarding document. So what the resources look like, a short example of what you can find on this Sharepoint site, a way to find out what kind of communications might come your way, or resources that support coordinated enrollment work. This form will be the kind of living way to update the contact information. And by filling out that form, which is also linked in our contact list on the Sharepoint, the person whose contact information is shared will also get access to kind of this whole list of communication resources at once. So trying to use a single list to make sure everyone's getting that information. Then just a brief overview of our meetings, our regular meetings, little reporting, and then our kind of contacts for ELD as it relates to coordinated enrollment things. So that's a little onboarding document to start us off. Of course, there we go. Then on the main page, you'll see there's a direction right to our Preschool Promise enrollment subpage 2, trying to make it easy. This is our area where we're gonna hopefully hear from you all, or feedback about what's working with the site, what we can make different, or what you'd like to see moving forward there. So that'll be kind of our call out. Then we've just kind of put in reporting resources and implementation plan as our quick links. Our plan for something like this is probably to call out any top of mind or new resources or things to direct you all to take action on. So this may change over time, but sort of starting with our big things, thinking Preschool Promise enrollment, getting a resource to that directly, and then our feedback being kind of the big take action moment. There's also a short preview of what's coming next. So as you can see, it's got our cohorts, it's got the office hours that Crystal runs, and it's got reporting due dates built in there as well, as a feature I can show when we get to events, to be able to add that to your calendar. And then down here, we've got a news space. So as you can see right now, we've got just one piece of news welcoming you and asking for feedback and directing back to the form. But this also will be a place where we can share some new and upcoming events or news. Try not to make you too dizzy. I know the screen sharing is tough sometimes. So if I move over to our resources page, you'll see sort of all of our resources. So our reporting, again, this will be where you can find the quarterly demographics reporting form, as well as links to the reporting SharePoint. Contact information will live here. I'll open this so you can see. Do this. Nope, not the image. Just got to do it like that. So there will be, if this will populate, this will be the contact list. Again, you'll see ELD contact info. And it may be having trouble loading right now, but there is a form here to add or edit or remove contacts. So you should have access. Just show you what this is looking like with our updates so far. You should have access to folks across the state doing coordinated enrollment work and email addresses, and would love to hear if there's other useful contacts like phone numbers or things you'd like to see in here as well. It's been cool seeing folks' roles come in. I think it'd be nice to see who's got a role similar to yours or who has a title, and just see the different work around family engagement, coordinating, managing, planning. Obviously our hub directors, it's a nice thing to see coming together. Well, now the form is here we go. So now you can see this is our update area. So as you have new staff or different roles or anything like that, we have a space hopefully to limit some of the emailing to make sure that everyone's got the access and communications they need to do this work. The early learning division documents are available here. You'll see there's quite a bit that will be populated. Our, again, reporting resources, preschool promise enrollment needs, all these kind of go back to this general archive. You'll see over time, we will fill out and use this to give cohort meeting agendas, any documents shared during cohorts in this space as well for record, as well as any reports and additional resources related to the key activities of coordinated enrollment. There's a link to the YouTube playlist, so you can get there if that's not already saved, and find the latest of our cohort meetings or our trainings or other recorded meetings related to coordinated enrollment. And then my favorite part, the early learning hub resources. So what I have started to do is to try to build out so we can all see each other's websites coming online, knowing there's been a lot of work across all the regions in creating family-facing websites to help direct, and happy to highlight those there. And then as we build these out, we'll be able to see a list of resources that have been created by you all that you'd like to see. We've got access to a form from this site to submit anything you'd like to share. You can either enter website URLs, describing, so some things you might consider like any outreach or marketing materials, regional partnerships, so useful framing of conversations or shared definitions that are coming out of your region that you'd like to share. Some of you do some data analysis around serving priority populations or making use of your data in some pretty cool ways. Family feedback, surveys and things that you've put together that you receive. An area to get some examples of eligibility documents. You'll note any individual identifying information. Please do not share that here. We won't be posting that or sharing that if we see that come through. any tools you use or found useful in selection placement, general planning, agendas or timeline things that come together to you. And then of course our all encompassing other, because we can't possibly think of the resources that might be, all the resources that might be available. So our plan would be to review these submissions and then be able to populate in this sub page these shared resources as you share them. That's our resources page. Our next one from the home site is kind of our Preschool Promise subsection. And Crystal, I'll let you jump in if there's anything you want to share, but you'll see there's a specific Preschool Promise news area to try to keep this clear, and anything that comes up. Links to some resources, so the enrollment manual, applications, any guidance or memos that has come out, as well as a link to the FAR waiver request for you. And then our quick links to the Preschool Promise grantee SharePoint site, the grant status portal for this program year, and then our Preschool Promise kind of on the ELD website, which currently has resources about the interest survey that's currently out for potentially interested providers. Crystal, anything you would add to this part?
No, thank you, Anne. You covered it pretty in depth.
Cool, thanks. So again, a place to come for some standing resources about Preschool Promise too. These next two are kind of just archives or bigger features from the main page. So this will be kind of our archive of the news. So as you'll remember, here's our kind of one news post so far, but this would hold all of the news that we share. And then our meetings and events has a bit of a longer list of upcoming events. It's a little slow on my end this morning. But imagine, if you will, that there's a list of upcoming events. And then for the time being, this also will link you to cohort meeting agendas if you want to get there faster and see either, what has been shared or what happened in a past meeting, or to see what's coming next as we have those up. Maybe if I hit refresh, we'll have a little more luck. Yep, there it goes. So a larger list of upcoming events. All right, so as a brief walkthrough, that's where our prototype is currently. Would love to hear from you all, your thoughts, initial reactions, and then as soon as you've got access, would also love those and anything else that occurs to you through that form on feedback. But I will maybe be able to see you all here and just see anything initially about this prototype you'd like to share. Pretty straightforward. A space for resources, which is a very consistent ask, and glad we've been able to do it, and know it's been a long time asked for.
And not to be nitpicky, but just to point something out, there's a typo right on the home page on implementation in one of the boxes. I think it's the enrollment.
Yep.
The N is missing, and I didn't know if that had to do with the size of the text box, but just thought I'd point that out.
Thank you. Yeah, it is a text box thing, but should try to fix that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise, I mean, it looks really good, and I think it's going to be nice to have a place to share resources and have a place for new staff as they come on board to learn more about the process and have everything all in one place to direct them to.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I hope this can be a helpful like repository of all that information. Yeah. Well, great. Like I said, you'll probably see a very like Microsoft template-y email come your way as we are able to grant access. And I'll try to make sure that I send an alert as well, so you all know should it get lost in a spam folder or something like that, what to look for as I get update that we're able to share it with you all. And otherwise, I think that was our only ELD update for this time. So would love to have some peer-to-peer time with you all. I think knowing it's December, folks getting ready to go in and out, and maybe past our big action, but starting to prepare for what next year will hold. I wonder if there's anyone who'd like to start us off sharing just wins, excitements, or what you're working on currently for coordinated enrollment.
Not necessarily win or excitement, but I have a question for the rest of the group if, you know, there's nobody else jumping in. We're starting to think about the roles or titles of the staff that are doing the coordinated enrollment process. It's confused. We've called the coordinated enrollment specialist, which we're finding to be confusing to parents when they hear from the providers, okay, now you need to do our enrollment process. And they're like, but we've been working with a coordinated enrollment specialist for all of these things, you know, what's this? And so for our staff, they're really doing eligibility and placement, not enrollment with the provider. And I was wondering what the other early learning hubs, you know, for your staff who are doing this, what are their position titles?
I'll jump in. So I do coordinated enrollment for Clackamas County, and I am the one answering the phone for the parents and contacting them. And I am just called a like program coordinator, like basically the same thing you're calling them. But I just end up, I mean, it feels like no matter what you call them, there's still gonna at some point be a disconnect. And I still have people saying like, well, wait, aren't you guys Head Start? I'm like, no, we're, no, not quite. They're never gonna fully get it, and it is just my opinion. And I just figure at the end of the day, maybe it doesn't matter if they fully understand. So what I've just been telling families, if it does come up of like, hey, I'm gonna help you. I just kind of end up doing a really brief explanation if it comes up in our phone calls of like, hey, so we contract with private preschools and different sites, and we buy some of their slots from them that we will pay for a child to go to. And you know, so that's on our end. So we're going to help you get into the preschool, but the preschool handles day to day. So talk to them about anything that is day to day. Talk to me about anything that's bigger and broader than that. And so I don't know, I haven't really figured out a perfect way either, but usually just it ends up being a kind of 1-minute conversation, and they get enough working knowledge to just go from there. And I usually don't ever hear back from the parents once they're in the center. So normally it doesn't really kick back to me too bad. I think I've had 1 or 2 parents get a little confused, but most of the time it's fine. But I don't know.
Hey there, Miss Dorothy. We use coordinated enrollment specialist as the titles for Melina and Maria. Melina is works more closely with with the programs, and Maria works more family facing, but they have the same title. And I think, I'm not sure that there would be a title that would help alleviate some of the confusion. But I know one of the things that we were talking about this year is having a better visual document of like what the steps are in the process of like, and being more direct about like, this is where you are in the process, and here's what to expect next in terms of like who you'll talk to, and there may be more paperwork you have to complete once you are placed in a program for that specific program. I mean, it's what we're going to try. Who knows how effective it will be, but it's something that we're going to try this year to help create more clarity, because we have similar type of like, well, I already filled that out. What do you mean I have more paperwork to do? And we saw that even in some of the parent survey comments that from the coordinated enrollment surveys, still some confusion about who they talked to, what part of the process they were in, what comes next, why do they have to do more, kind of thing.
Just to add for some, not in this cohort, I think one of the types of titles we've seen start to come up a lot more is kind of on that either family engagement or family navigator, kind of acknowledging like a long part of the process. And then, like you said, because there's sort of the actual enrollment, final enrollment, I don't know, I think even internally, it's, a little bit like, how do we name, the process or the roles there? But I think those pieces around, acknowledging like the connection with families and like the either engagement or navigating of the system has been something I think others have also come around to or thought about the role in that way. Any others? Thoughts on that as well?
I just explained to them that I'm the role more of like on the state side, and that I provide the free preschool that makes them eligible for it. And then they have to go through the policies and stuff that the preschool has, and those are completely different than what I am doing. So I just explained that it's more income for me and that I provide the free part of it.
Kelly, would you like to share a little bit about what you guys brainstormed on as a group? Because they were kind of collectively thinking about what they would like their titles to be, because within our backbone organization, we have our titles that are our backbone titles, and then we have our public facing titles, and we have a little bit of flexibility with that. And so the team is trying to decide, moving forward, what makes the most sense giving their roles. And you're muted, Kelly.
Yeah. So yeah, and part of that too was because what somebody earlier mentioned about parent facing versus systems, and that's kind of part of it for us too, because we have a little bit different duties within our positions. And so one of the things that we had looked at and thought would be a good title would be like eligibility and resource coordinator. And that's kind of, we had talked about some other ones as well, but that's the one that we kind of thought was kind of an all around best one that we agreed on. So.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense, I think, for like some of that shared meaning, shared understanding, and how does that show up in public facing titles as well. And what do we mean by enrollment anyway? I think that's an overarching question. Yeah. Thanks. Well, as gonna start plugging the SharePoint as we go, but as you're seeing and viewing the contact list, I think having that, seeing that role what others are thinking about roles too, can continue that conversation. It's a good one. And there are many coordinated enrollment specialists across the state. That much I can see right now. But getting deeper into the meaning of that, I think is an awesome step to take. Well, let's see, since we dove into consultation, I'll open it up to say wins, excitements, or other questions you'd like to ask your peers at this point.
Well, I would jump in with, I don't know really where this would fit in the agenda. So I'll just throw it out since it seems like no one has a burning thing. So we had a weird, slow burning dumpster fire mess start this week, where we had a center that it turns out had a few different reports written up about it and had been sending children home regularly, sending children home without like very little cause. And we didn't hear about it from anybody. It got up to a complaint to the ELD and we never heard about it. And somehow like the center was having this crazy mess happen over there. And we didn't know until an early childhood special ed person who was stationed at the preschool reached out to us and said, "Hey guys, why aren't you doing something?" We're like, what? We didn't know. And then the parents are writing us angry. And then it's, so it very quickly escalated right up to the top and we didn't know about it. And so it seemed like we had some sort of communication breakdown where we didn't know that one of our centers had like these reports written against it. And we were wondering, like, is there something that we could have done better to get looped in once things like that, like those reports started to be written and there were official complaints? Like, we need to know these things, but it seems like there wasn't really like a framework for looping us in. So then we were like quickly scrambling to figure out what the heck was going on with our center and then working backwards from there. So I don't know, maybe that's more for you, Anne, but is there some sort of feedback loop that we should have done or is going to happen, or we don't want that to happen again? That was bad.
Yeah, and I'm going to give Crystal a chance with Preschool Promise enrollment stuff to jump in.
Yeah, hey Sophia. So basically, I think we found out maybe at the end of last week, so it wasn't like too much of a notice, and we were still figuring out what we were going to do on our end. So not that there was like an official complaint, just information that had come to us from someone reaching out through, I believe, other means. So I think when we get information of that sort, our role as the ELD then is to gather more information, because at that point it's just an allegation or information, and we're really trying to gather the information that we need to see if the grantee is really out of compliance. And I think if there would have been a situation where we had some very serious concerns, then we would have been reaching out a lot sooner. But from my understanding, this had all just really emerged at the tail end of last week. So nothing that we really could have done at that time, since the majority of our people are out on Fridays. So we were kind of staffing it Monday when we got a call.
Monday's about when everything happened for us. So,
Yeah.
okay, so we're all just in the fire together. It's going great.
Yeah.
It's going great over here.
Yeah, I would say I think in those moments where an allegation or a report, as you come aware of those, obviously I think first and foremost, like working with families that reach out to you if they want different placements, or trying to kind of meet their needs. And like Crystal was saying, we have a responsibility to kind of follow an investigation process on allegations. So it can, I think, look like slower or reactionary, but I think it's really intending to make sure that we're following, our processes, be they licensing or otherwise, to follow on allegations, and make sure that when we need to take actions, it's done with substantiated information and decisions made. So I would say for you all, I think first and foremost, what helping the families as they reach out and as they, make choices or would like to have a different placement or something, that's, first and foremost there. And then as soon as there's information to share about, the grantees grant status or enrollment status, in terms of being able to accept Preschool Promise enrollments, that would be shared with you once that determination is made. So it is just to acknowledge it's hard knowing that something's in the works and not really knowing what might come next there. But it is trying to keep our kind of responsibility to investigate and let the licensing work happen that leads to that. So I know it doesn't feel great. Doesn't feel great when they're happening. But hopefully I think some of that insight as to what we're going through, what we're making sure the steps we're taking, and first and foremost, working with the families who'd like to make a choice to move or something like that. First priority. Thanks for bringing that up, Sophia. That's got to be hard to work around and work with. Anyone else come with a wondering for their colleagues or an excitement? Another drink of coffee. When Kelly's background comes on, it makes me feel like, oh, that's where I want to be, just warm and cozy. Let's see. Well, if nothing else is coming to mind for you all, I hate to make you sit in silence or record my voice more than needed. If it would be a better use of your time to finish off early today, I'm happy to do that with this group. I'll just say keep your eyes peeled for a SharePoint view request or invitation. I'll make sure I know what that language looks like here shortly, and we'll be real excited to hear your feedback and ways we can prototype this thing to be a real useful resource for all of us. So excited to share that. If we don't have reason to talk otherwise, have a great rest of the month, the holiday time off as you might be taking it, and see you all certainly in the new year. And don't hesitate to reach out at any point, taking just a couple of days off, but if something comes up, I'm happy to help in the meantime. But hoping for a quiet and restful holiday season for you all. See you all later. Take care.
Thank you, you too.